Hi, welcome back to Talk with TQ and Energy Stoners Cafe. Tonight we are here at the Studio Theater in Exile in the Black Box at the Hudson Valley MOCA, Peekskill's Contemporary Art Museum. Thank you, Studio Theater in Exile in Mara Mills, Jeremy Gratt, and museum founders Livia and Mark Strauss for having us. Tonight I'm interested in talking to these people. I didn't get to see what they actually do, but I read the press releases and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see this play. The play is called The Last 5 Years, and the reason I like it is because there's like this time warp in it where although it's clear what the story is about a young couple that is separated, divorced, and it talks about their separate journeys, but it's almost like a time, I call it a time warp.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sort of like a mind flip, and it makes one think about the relationships that they've had and the loves that they've had and lost. Okay, so I'm here with Bret and Alea Vorillas, and they are the stars of the show. They are the couple that we're talking about, and it shows both of them in their journeys after their separation and after having a marriage where they loved each other. I'm really interested in seeing this play. It kind of reminds me like a little Benjamin Button-ish.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. So tell me how you got involved in this and how you got so fortunate to work with Mara Mills.
Oh, truly fortunate, truly fortunate. Bret and I met 5 years ago. We were in a production of West Side Story together in Wilton. Yes. And we connected. We were just like kindred spirits right out of the gate. And we talked about wanting to do this show. And it's funny because I had an affinity for the male in the show, Jamie. I connected with him, like I understood his point of view. And I really I jived with his music. Like I just felt very connected to his music. And
I felt the opposite.
Oh, okay.
Well, I've always loved the whole piece, like for 20 odd years since like high school when I discovered it. But Kathy is who I always gravitated towards. And so when we gravitated towards each other and recognized each other's talents, we were just like, wow, we could just do this show because it requires no one but ourselves.
yes, and we even joked, we could reverse the roles.
Gender swapped.
But that's not allowed per the rights. We are not allowed to do it, or we will get
Maybe one
cease
day.
and desist. So, I 5 years on, I was thinking of auditioning for something else, and I contacted Bret. I said, let's go out and do karaoke and try out some songs, and something just beautiful blossomed, this idea. And he had done Nuremberg here.
Yes.
He'd done another play with Mara and Jeremy, and
That's kind of what happened. I did a reading of Judgment at Nuremberg earlier this year, and I spoke with Mara after the show and just told her how much I loved the space and just how cool the process was of getting to do something in a black box space, and it was close to home, which kind of was very beneficial. And we just kind of started talking about like, she was saying she's always looking for new directors or new pieces and things like that. So it kind of just stayed in the back of my head. And when we started discussing around the time when she was auditioning and some time was kind of opening up with work and whatnot, I just thought, you know what? Maybe this is the time. Like maybe we have a space, maybe we have a place. So I just kind of contacted Mara, and she was really interested, which I was really thrilled about. And the three of us met, and Jeremy, and the four of us met really, and it just kind of took off. And I was amazed that we were able to make it happen, and very grateful that they wanted to make it happen.
So you just put it out there, it happened for you.
Put it out there.
We manifested it.
We did manifest it.
and just as soon as I walked into the museum, I looked around. I was like, oh, this is the perfect place, because we knew we didn't want to do a conventional telling of this story. I always felt, I don't feel like either one of us are conventionally what's been done with either of the roles. And I as I said, I feel like there's a lot of the opposite roles in each of us, and that would make such an interesting story. And so conceptually, I wanted to sort of do something different, and just being tucked away in this tiny black box within this contemporary art museum where everything is sort of turned on its head in terms of convention would be the perfect spot for it. And
It was kismet.
it was kismet, and just, you know, I mean, the projections, you know, the opportunity to do projections, and it's an amazing
Space.
it's amazing space and system that they have that it doesn't really cast a shadow, you know, the way the projections work. So
And it's just kind of nice because it's not just like, oh, we're going to do a show at a theater. It's like, we're going to do a show at a museum. It's a piece of art, you know, instead of just it being another musical. You know, it kind of shines a spotlight on what I've always found is really special about this piece is that it's unique, you know, and kind of what Alea was saying is that we kind of wanted to use a more abstract take on it. And it's a piece that doesn't get done a lot, but a lot of people in the theater community know it. They've known the score, they've known the cast recording for years, or they've sung the songs, but they don't get to see it done a lot. And we really wanted to bring it in our own light. We kind of take little scraps of different productions that we've seen, but we don't want it to just be anything that like, okay, you're gonna see us sing the songs, but there's some things to think about in the way that we're staging it. So yeah.
And it's normally done in a bigger space with, you know, scenes, and it's done very literally, a literal retelling. It still has the backwards forwards timeline.
Absolutely.
But it's presented in a very logical, sequential way, you know, per timeline. We're taking a totally different approach. I'm melding some different productions of like, Jason Alexander did a production in Syracuse where he incorporated dance, and Bret's a lot more savvy with it than I mean, you're.
Well, I come from a choreography background,
Right.
so as soon as she mentioned that production to me, that was something that I really got excited about because, you know, just the thought of kind of incorporating some movement without it being like a dance piece.
Right.
But just, it's completely sung through. There's very little dialogue, but the music continues from start to finish. So just like in musical theater with music, a lot of the time comes movement. And, you know, again, just it being an art piece, there's so many different aspects to that I thought, you know, this is what's so exciting.
And that they're never together except for that moment when their trains are crossing. And I said, I see this for us, like I love that retelling in Syracuse where he had Kathy and Jamie, the protagonists, dancing out the pieces, even though the two singers were never on stage together. I like that concept. And I said, what if we brought that concept into it and had them on stage together? So this is going to be a production like none other. That it has been done.
That's the hope.
Yeah, because we're actually bringing them on stage together. They're on stage together a lot, intertwined in each other's scenes, and they act as part memory, part living their timeline. So
we just intertwine within each other's timeline a lot,
Right.
you know, and it's like one person's in a timeline looking back at a memory of someone, but they're in their own timeline, and it's almost like if you didn't know what the concept was or you didn't know what was going on, they could very well just be interacting with each other, but it's just layer upon layer in that sense, you know, that you can look at it ethereally, you know.
Right, you can look at it and see it in a lot of different, sort of like the works of art in the museum. It's in the eye of the beholder what you're going to get from it. But you know, like the way I saw it, you said Benjamin Button. I saw that sort of, I say outside of the space-time continuum, where there's the Jamie and Kathy that are within the show that are living out the memory of a love gone wrong in an almost dreamlike, trance-like state, and then there's the Jamie and Kathy who are outside of that, outside of the space-time continuum. I keep saying that, but are reliving it and then feeling that remorse and feeling like victimized by the choices that they made, and realizing, and they both had a hand in this going wrong, but their fate has been cast and they can't be together. So you sense that longing in the show that I felt was missing in the original.
Sounds like there's some tension there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
sent like
Yeah.
the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah, that was kind of like our
template.
our blueprint, yeah, if you will. You know,
We
just
use a lot of like those movies as like, you know, inspiration.
Yeah.
I bring up a lot of like other like pop culture type of films that are, you know, pushing the boundaries of reality. But
Yeah.
you know, just in the sense that in that movie, Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, like, she's already erased him and he's mad, so he's erasing her and he's in the process of trying to get her back. And I wanted that feeling that, you know, throughout the show there are moments, I don't want to give too much away.
Please don't.
But
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
I know I don't want to give, but the moments where they're intertwined are very, very purposeful, and the moments when the musical motifs repeat are very deliberate in what we're doing and our action within it and our place in that space-time continuum and where we are. It's very distinct and unmistakable that there's that tension, as you say, that, you know, wanting something that's already gone.
Yeah.
And yeah.
something that anyone could relate to.
Right.
It's very metaphoric the way I read
Yes,
it. It's very
Yes.
metaphoric.
Yes, yeah.
And I read that the playwright Jason Robert Brown, he was inspired by this time swap thing when he was in a subway waiting for and saw two trains pass each other.
Yes.
You know, and you know it. I mean, I don't know if our audience, all of them are not from New York City, but I think a lot of people have been on trains. But you know, when you're going this way and there's another train going the other way, there's that weird place where you're kind of going the same speed.
Yeah. You kind
Yeah.
of feel that pull in one direction while you're
Right.
being pulled, or you're going in one direction, but you're feeling pulled in another
In the
at the same
opposite,
time. And you
yeah.
And when you see them, it looks like they're almost in slow motion
Yeah.
when they're overlapping. And
Right.
there's that very moment in the show as well.
We tried to kind of use that as something to incorporate that, again, we won't want to give away too much, but
Right.
just, you know, with some of the visual things that we are playing with, that you can get that same kind of emotion from witnessing that happening between two people.
It's interesting to me because it sounds like people that have been through breakups, you know, where you divorce somebody, you break up with someone even, there is always that little tension where there's that part of you in the back of your mind, or not always, but I think that it's pretty common to have that part of in the back of your mind that you really want to be with that person, but you know you shouldn't.
Right.
Right. It's there's always going to be a place that they occupy, no matter what happens in the relationship. There's always that imprint of when things were right and when things were working. And I don't know who it was, that maybe it was David who had mentioned, you know, a feeling of when you break up with your ex and you're in bed and you still like feel them next to you or need to feel them next to you.
David, our music director,
Yeah.
mentioned this.
It's, you know, you may have fallen out of love or, you know, you may have grown apart, but the memory, it's like a death, right? And that memory never
There's a
goes
grieving,
away.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a grieving process.
And there's like a physical presence that you might be missing, or even, you know, just to kind of tag on to what David was saying that Alea was mentioning, is like you may not be together, but you may still be in bed together, and maybe your feet meet, you know, at the end of the night, and it's like, you know, we're not fighting, or we're not talking, we're fighting, but there's still a connection that you can't, it's unmistakable, you know, that you can't let go of.
I can see, what do you know about these things? It's funny, you know about that? you seem kind of young to know about that.
I'm older than I look, but I appreciate you saying so.
Yes. No, it's just a remarkable, like, premise.
Yeah.
You know, so when you guys decided to do this, you picked the play, because I heard that Time Magazine said that this particular musical is like the best musical or something, da-da-da.
Oh, I
You
think
know?
I've heard that, yeah.
Yeah.
My affinity with this show started in high school, and it was just one of those, like, I was at, you know, one of those Broadway tourist memorabilia stores, and I got the cast recording because I'd heard a lot of my, you know, really intense theater friends had told me about it, and they really loved it. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. And someone bought it for me as a birthday present.
Oh.
And I listened to it, and I was just like enamored from the start. And especially because it's, you know, just two people back and forth. And again, I really gravitated towards Kathy and her songs, and I still do, but I'm really getting to find the appreciation for all of Jamie's music and all of Jamie's characterization. And now, as you know, 20 years later, from now that I've directed, you know, children's theater and things like that, I haven't gotten to work with adults yet in that sense. So that's been something that's been really important to me, is to kind of get this new sense of direction, but getting it from an adult perspective, and also taking a piece that feels very adolescent to me because it is so meaningful for me in my past, to get a new perspective on it as an adult. And having gone through relationships and things like that now, you know, where I was so obsessed with it, you know, and listened to it all the time and like thought I knew so much about life. But in a way, you know, sometimes some of my relationships, I would kind of go back and think about this show. And it is something that really put an imprint on my brain and my heart and my soul.
Oh, that's deep.
You know, as tacky as it sounds, but it is.
No,
it's something that has
I take it
has sat with
seriously.
me for a very long time, and it's something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. And now, not only getting to perform as Jamie, but to also get to kind of co-direct the vision of it, and most especially get to really take care of Kathy, because of how much I care for that character, is really just like the best present in the world. It's like it couldn't be better.
Yeah,
I don't remember what the question was, but I hope that answered it.
I can. No, I asked. You know,
We veered a little. That's okay.
No, that's okay. That's fine. I think that it'll be extraordinary. I've got a little snippet of hearing your beautiful voice, Alea. Oh my gosh, you have a lovely, lovely voice.
It's quite an instrument.
You do sound, and you do have that Broadway thing. You know, you do. So when did you start? I'll ask you each. When did you start performing? Is how many performances? When did you start performing?
Oh, goodness. I started performing. I was a late bloomer in terms of figuring out, well, actually, no, I guess I'm not. I grew up with like show choir kids and, you know, starting at like 6. So I started when I was around 12, 13, I would say. Yeah.
That's very young.
Yeah, I guess that is pretty young.
Yes.
And but I grew up in Manhattan, so, and my parents put me in
It was in the
performing.
air.
It was in the air, you know, and I sort of figured it out late among my friends, I would say. And I didn't always fit in. I didn't have a lot of friends, and we had challenges, you know, growing up, just financially, you know, and I wasn't wearing like, you know, the in clothes and so music gave me a way to fit in. And I've always led with my voice. I found that it's something that, you know, I wasn't always great at everything. School work was difficult for me, but this was something that I could do. So I sort of focused whole hog on it. And I stayed the course, you know, all throughout college I did it. And I think because I had a larger instrument, I got kind of geared towards opera. You know, I had a lot of teachers like, you know, you really would serve best, and, you know, you should sing opera. Broadway, you're not the greatest dancer, people would tell me.
Oh, that's not fair.
You have 2 left feet, so.
That's not fair.
Not an issue in opera.
Not an issue. And actually, it's funny because I performed at the Amato Opera House, and I was one of their, you know, younger people in the chorus. I was in part of their corps ensemble, and they made me a dancer.
Oh, there you go.
So I was the
There you go.
me and Bernie.
There you go.
You know those calls that
Yeah.
say singers that can act,
Singers
Yeah.
dancers
move.
that can sing,
Yeah.
Exactly.
you know, actors who can dance.
Yeah, I couldn't dance, but it didn't bother him because he's like, "You're young and you're pretty, and you'll be fine." So it was hilarious. So I kind of grew up there, and then when I moved up here, I by the time I moved up here, I had 30 leading operatic roles, and you know, I was getting ready to go to Europe because that was the next logical step, and then I was like, I want to have a baby. I want to have a family. I got married. I moved up here. So I said, there's not a lot of opera happening up here, but boy, there's a lot of, more theater happening up here. So I started getting more into the theater scene and doing more musical theater, which was my roots, what I originally was doing. And I haven't really looked back. I don't really know if I...
Well, you're doing fantastic,
Thank you.
And you got married and had a baby. You did it all.
Doing it all.
2 babies.
Two babies, see? A lot of people can't accomplish all that. They don't have time,
And still performing.
Still performing.
Performing. And
So-
selling houses.
And selling houses.
There you
He's
go.
your realtor, commercial realtor. Yes.
Residential.
Residential.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
that was a different conversation. And you are like a producer, director of something.
So
I mean, you're in it.
it's I've had theater is pretty much my entire life. It started from my parents. They were both involved in a lot of local theater. So I grew up in rehearsals. My mother was a choreographer. My father was a director. They met at an audition, and then my mother was a big performer in local theater. So I would just kind of be at rehearsals left and right when I was young. So I started pretty young, probably like, I don't know, like 4, I think, was my first stage appearance.
4 years
you
old.
saw
See, I started late.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that's why you said that. I get it now. Now I get it.
Yeah. So it started. Yeah, it
4
started
years
in
old.
Westchester local theater.
I saw his debut.
Oh, how was it?
Was at the Alice Tully Hall one? Is that one? You
Oh,
saw
nice
that?
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were on stage. I don't
Yes,
know where
the
it
All
was.
That Jazz.
Yes. Yeah.
At Alice Tully Hall was an All That. It was a benefit concert called All That Jazz, and I was one of the children in Getting to Know You. I was one of the children that sing with like every. It was just different. It was a review, so it was different musical numbers from different shows.
Yeah.
So someone was playing Anna from King and I was one of the children. I was supposed to be a newsboy in like one of the gypsy numbers, and I was too shy, believe it or not. So my sister was a newsboy, and I kind of sat and watched, and I was like, oh, I should have done that, but. Lo and behold, a few years later, I did like Peter Pan. I think that was really the first big show I did. And then I just did a lot of local theater. And then I actually started doing commercials when I was younger. And
You were on that, the Kicks.
yes, I was.
You were in the Kicks commercial?
My claim to
Kicks
fame, I was a
commercial, yes.
90s Kicks kid.
Yes.
That was you.
Well, yeah, there are several of them, but one of them is me. It tends to be one that I show people and go, oh my gosh, I remember that one.
I remember that one. Yeah, if you saw it, you would be like, that was you?
Yeah.
So that was in kindergarten actually. So after that, I was auditioning a lot, and in middle school, I ended up working professionally. I worked. I did the Christmas Carol at Madison Square Garden that they used to do. So that was how I got my union status, and then I did a tour of Full Monty. The first Broadway national tour of the Full Monty, I was playing the son, and missing a lot of school, but actually doing really well because I was working one-on-one with tutors. And then I kind of was doing it for almost a year, and then I was thinking, you know what, I want to go back to high school and have a regular school experience. But then lo and behold, I ended up not being the greatest of students when I came back. But theater was always the go-to thing. So that was really like the brunt of my professional experience. I kind of dabbled here and there in some local theater as an adult, and worked in like theme parks down in Florida. I worked at Disney and Universal and Nickelodeon Hotel, and then I came back to New York, and at first I wanted to kind of start pursuing it again, but then I also said, you know what, I also want to eat and
helps.
afford rent.
Yeah.
So and kudos to all the people that really make that happen, because I just didn't have the stamina. And so that led to teaching theater, which led to choreographing, which led to directing. So now I'm a full-time program director for Random Farms Kids Theater, which is an after-school
great.
theater program. So I do full-scale shows for kids from kindergarten, through middle school, and then some. And I found a real passion for directing, but I've also dabbled in local theater here and there, and performing is always going to be my first thing. So the fact that I can kind of meld the two, that's how we got here.
That's how you got here. I find that people in this big field of show business, you get to a point where you stay in your lane. I know people that I'd love to interview, but they just don't want to.
Yeah,
They don't want to do it.
Yeah, being being on the camera or being in front of an audience is not for the faint of heart. It's not for everyone.
It's true.
It is
but
definitely.
It's not for everyone. Alea, can I trouble you to sing just a little snippet of the play? Anything that suits your fancy.
Sure. Oh.
Maybe you could sing something together.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Guess we could do a little next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know how much we'll do.
Do as much as you want.
Okay, so I'll start.
Yeah.
Will you share your life with me
Forever.
for the next 10 lifetimes?
Forever.
For a million summers till the
the
world
world
explodes, till there's no one left who has ever known us apart. There are so many dreams I need to see with you.
So many years I need to be with
I will
you.
never be complete.
I will never be alive.
I will never change the world until I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Wow, a cappella.
That was,
Not
that
bad.
was so
I
good.
may have changed keys at one point.
That
So
was
sorry,
so
David,
good. It
but-
was. I got chills. That was really, really good, you know? And I think that I would love to interview you guys again when I actually get a chance to see the play in
Sure.
December.
Do a little follow-up?
Yes, no, exactly. Because at that point, I'll be able to add a little more content, and I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing it.
That'll be
We
wonderful.
would love to. We're very. I always say it's in the eye of the beholder, right? It's like seeing a piece of art. So I love to, hear
Yeah.
reactions because we are doing something different. So it'd be
Yes.
interesting to hear your perspective.
Yeah, and we know what we want to put out there, but once it's out there,
yeah, it's
you know,
not ours anymore.
It's the audience's to interpret. So
well,
we
this
love
is-
to hear what everyone.
Well, this is a fantastic space to be in for what you do.
Absolutely.
And I thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so
and
much
thank
for
you
having us.
for breaking out of your normal character and just singing.
Sure,
That-
why not? That's
that-
what it's about, right?
that takes
You
a
gotta
lot
take
of-
risks in theater. So.
Yes, you do. It's a lot. It takes a lot of guts to do that, and not everybody has the guts.
It's true.
You know,
thank you. I
and
appreciate
not
that.
everybody has the talent, and that's probably why they don't do it. So there you go. But this was great. Thank you so much, Bret and Alea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for coming to another episode of the Energy Stoners Cafe and Talk with TQ here at the Studio Theater in Exile. Thank you, Mara Mills. And thank you, Hudson Valley MOCA. I'll see everybody next time. Bye-bye.